I do too. All right.
All right.
Would you like to read an excerpt now?
Sure, I can do this.
Okay.
From book one, The Messenger of Dreams. Let me just set a little bit of background real quick so it doesn't just spew
Okay.
words out of thin air. This character, Dylan Bryant, is the one who was the military person who was a police officer, was injured, and his third eye and abilities were awakened. And he starts to have visions while he's awake, just periodically. This particular one, he's just stopped for the night in a hotel, but he can't sleep. So he's laying in bed looking at the ceiling when suddenly the ceiling fades away. And then I'll start. Dylan looked straight into the night sky. All he could see was blackness, and then slowly stars faded in again. It all seemed surreal, as if he was floating in thin air while looking up into the sky. He then heard thousands of footsteps coming from below. He noticed he was floating above an ancient battlefield. Based on the armor and looking at the layout, it appeared to be pre-Sumerian. There were thousands of human troops marching towards an open field, and on the other side was what appeared to be a temple made of metal in the shape of a ziggurat, like he had seen the day before. He looked from his vantage point above, and he noticed a drawbridge lower from the side of the middle ziggurat and outboard hundreds of soldiers, seemingly unhuman from a distance. They appeared to be a tannish reptilian creature. As they ran towards the charging humans, they were outnumbered by the humans hundreds to one. Before the battle began, the clear night sky filled with storm clouds, and Dylan could no longer see the stars. When he looked up, he could see the clouds were turning darker and starting to churn like a large storm amid lightning. The lightning went from white to bright red, and while the night sky glowed red. As Dylan looked back towards the ground, he noticed the creatures from the ziggurat were firing a red light beam from their weapon and killing the humans. Humans were fighting back with conventional weapons as the sheer force of their army was pushing these creatures backward. Suddenly, the ground beneath them erupted with a flame column that went straight into the air. Dylan saw the flame, and it began to turn and turn until it became like lightning. Tornado, and the fire in the sky. It touched the ground and went hundreds of feet in the air. Dylan was amazed as if he could feel the heat from the flames. Upon top of the tornado of fire, he saw there was a metal platform, and it was floating, and on this were figures that appeared to be giants. He made them out to be some sort of gods. These gods were waving weapons and yelling in a deep voice and crackled like thunder, speaking a language he'd never heard before. He watched the battle unfold as these gods fired lightning bolts and red beams of light down into the human hordes, but the significantly larger army of humans kept moving forward. One of the gods then raised his staff and yelled something in a very commanding voice. The massive fire suddenly changed its form and turned into the form of a giant dragon that swooped down from a tornado into the masses, and it killed hundreds of soldiers with each flying past. The platform itself continued to hover in the air. From their vantage point, the gods directed their army below against the humans. The source of the fire began to rumble as the ground began to split open. From the opening, steam poured out and out of the hole in the ground. Many humans fell into the pit, and Dylan could see their orbs floating back out of the chasm. The surviving human infantry moved around the hole and continued to advance towards the enemy, reaching the metal ziggurat temple setting on the desert floor. The inhuman army had now been pushed back to almost the very edge of the structure. Water and steam began to shoot up out of the ground. It was scalding, and it was pouring under the feet of the human troops. The retreating water then pulled him back down into the hole in the ground as more water then came back out. Dylan realized that everything was now shaking like an earthquake. As he could see everything around him heavily shaking, he looked back up into the sky and the clouds were parting. He saw the floating platform was now moving away from the battle and heading toward a temple. Dylan felt a sense of terror when he looked above that and saw a giant black orb in the night sky. It appeared to be twice the size of the moon. The dark orb was getting closer and closer. It appeared to be some sort of an alien planet on a collision course with the Earth.
Well, that was scary.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually saw that like a movie in my head, and I wrote what I saw.
Yeah.
Now that's scary too.